And so we have to, you know, I understand that our families are not just struggling, they're literally one setback away from losing their house. So that's why affordable housing and access to affordable housing and stable housing has to be a priority.
This is Black Girls Politicking. I'm Michaela. Today we are meeting with Darlene Breaux, who is currently running for Texas State House Representative for District 149. Darlene, welcome to Black Girls Politicking.
Thank you. Thank you. So happy to be here.
Of course. So, just to kick this off, for individuals who may not be familiar with you or your background, tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to run for this role in particular.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I'm Dr. Darlene Breaux. I've spent over 25 years as an educator, a mentor, a community leader, just involved in the community. And I would say I've really dedicated my life to just doing that work, just providing opportunities to help people and their families. And so I'm running because I've seen how our systems are working and how they can work well. But
Mhm.
I've also how seen how systems fail us and they fall short. I think about one of our community members I met. Her name was is Sharon, and she was telling me about a time when her car broke down, and she ended up having to take 5 buses
Wow.
to get to a medical appointment for her daughter.
Wow.
I think about another community member, Brandy, who talked about her struggles with navigating the education system, and her son had dyslexia. And so what I see every day is our families are working hard, but they're still trying to get by. They're struggling and they're trying to navigate the system. And so I just felt that it was my responsibility to step up and be a strong voice in our community. And it's not about politics for me. It truly is about the people, the Brandys and the Sharons, all of those people here in District 149.
Yeah, and I think, just to expand on your background, like you said, Dr. Darlene, bro. And I think
Yeah.
one thing that a lot of individuals may not know is that you have just a very expansive portfolio of things that you've done, things that you've accomplished. For example, you spent 25 years in education, you're a mentor, a policy advocate, but most recently, you've also served as the board president for A-Leaf ISD, as well as a
Mm.
master trustee with the Texas Association of School Boards. How has that experience prepared you to lead something like House District 149?
Truly, all of those experiences, I say that I've done a lot of work from the classroom to the boardroom, lots of in between. But honestly, being serving on the school board, I understand how your school district is truly a mirror or a microcosm of what's happening in the community, right? And as a school board trustee and a president, you are accountable to the people who vote for you and put you in there. So you have to be in the community. You have to be listening to make sure that you are that good representative for them when you're making decisions for the district. And you have to know what their needs and their concerns are. I think about this last Thanksgiving, when SNAP benefits were frozen. I knew how that was going to affect our community. We have a very high rate of students that are on free and reduced lunch, right? But what we also knew was that breakfast and lunch, serving them is fine, but what about that last meal of the day?
Yeah.
What about that dinner? And so what we decided to do is, being responsive to the needs of the community is we selected certain campuses throughout our district and we served dinner. And
Wow.
we didn't just serve dinner to our students. Like, how can you feed the students, but then send them back home to, their siblings or even their family members that, hadn't eaten? So anybody that showed up with our students, we fed them. It's about being responsive, listening to the needs of the community, and actually doing something about it, not just hearing about the problem. And at the state level, yes, I serve on the board of the Texas Association of School Boards. What that does is give me a broader perspective of what's going on across the state, right? In education, but also the broader community. And so I know how to listen and collaborate and work across differences to get things done. And so I think that that has experience has prepared me to do the work and how I will approach the work in Austin.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I will say you're probably one of the first few candidates I think that has framed it that way, like this
Hmm.
intentional responsiveness. I think a lot of times, and I say that to say it's not like it's this new concept, right? It's not that people are not being responsive. They just don't necessarily talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
In these particular spaces, you have to respond to so many different things. And I think obviously in this interview, we're not going to pigeonhole you into education, but
No.
you have a ton of policy priorities that are
Hmm.
really built around responding to the moment. And one thing that, really struck out to me, and that's something that I continue to look for, is the cost of living. What are we going to do about
Yeah.
affordability? Because it's something that is truly plaguing Texas families. So, what does that look like? What does your plan look like to help? These families manage rising food and gas and housing and utility costs, not just in your district, but across the state of Texas.
Yeah. Well, just like you mentioned, our families are facing these challenges. They're being squeezed, and we have to give them very practical solutions. Some of the things that I talk about when we're talking about rising costs, right? It's about affordability. How can I afford these? Well, that you have to address that these people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to put food on their table, just to keep a roof over their head. Those are the things that we have to address. We have to address the root causes of some of these issues. Some of the things that I would say I'm most proud about is our community was saying for years that they were challenged with the workforce pipeline. Our businesses were saying we don't have qualified workers, right? So these students, these family members weren't getting jobs. We have to strengthen that workforce pipeline and create opportunities for internships and workforce connections so that when students leave high school, they have industry-based certifications where they can go out and they can get high quality, high paying jobs. We have to partner with our businesses, not just for our high school students, but looking at partnerships for our young adults, our unemployed adults, making sure that we address those and making sure that individuals are being paid a livable wage. Last legislative session, the public school district finally received some funding, right? Because we had not received any increase in funding since 2019. Now,
Wow.
think
Wow.
about your paycheck in 2019
Ooh, yeah.
if it would how far it you could stretch it
Yeah.
and now. And so we finally received some funding, but it was earmarked only for teachers.
Mhm.
Well, we know that everybody that works in a school district. That's our drivers, our nutrition department, our facilities, our custodial team. All of those affect our students. So we had to dig in our pockets and figure out a way that we were going to give a raise and a cost of living increase to all of our staff in our district. And so those are the types of things that we need to think about, is strengthening the workforce pipeline, but also increasing their wages and making sure that they have opportunities for training and certifications that allow them to get those better paying jobs.
Yeah. Again, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think we talk a lot about individuals, who may receive benefits, or we talk about, individuals that say, like, I need more money, right? I need to make more money. And there's often this stigma, right, that people just
Mhm.
aren't working. No one's going
Right.
to work. People just need jobs. And the reality is that the cost of living does not match the wages. I just saw an article
Mhm.
yesterday where the gas prices have officially reached higher than the, actual minimum wage of that place in
Yeah.
particular. There's this idea that people's wages are not meeting the moment. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
again, I think any candidate that's looking to seek office has to be intentional about affordability, and it seems as if you are. So I'm happy to hear that. And housing affordability, that is a major, major concern for individuals. What policies would you support to increase, access to affordable housing in your district in particular?
Yeah. Well, actually, in my district, we in our area, in the A-Leaf area, it actually has one of the highest eviction rates in the city.
Mhm.
That is an issue. And they say, why are people leaving A-Leaf? They're not leaving willingly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They are being misplaced, put out, evicted. And that's a issue. I had an opportunity to go to an event, and I met a young woman. Her name was Brittany, and she was part of our unhoused population. And we just got in a conversation, and she told me about how she got there,
Mhm.
right? And so through some unfortunate circumstances, she was evicted from her home, staying at a couple of different places, and then she had to go to some short term rentals and hotels and stuff. But she talked to me about this cycle of I go to a short-term rental. I don't have a permanent address but when I'm trying to get these resources, they need an address to send it to, and then I'm moving, and then my phone broke. I mean, it's system after system after system that has failed them. And so we have to, you know, I understand that our families are not just struggling, they're literally one setback away from losing their house. So that's why affordable housing and access to affordable housing and stable housing has to be a priority. And so for me, whether that's encouraging mixed income development so that our families actually have real options, protecting our renters with fair practices so they're not unjustly removed from their premises, and then also supporting first time home buyers. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can get them in a house,
Mhm.
but we got to make sure that we have resources and supports so that when some setbacks happen, they're not put out and foreclosed on. And so I it's about connecting our residents to resources, but we also have to make sure that we're funding these programs from the state level.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm blown away because again, I think these are things to me they seem like common sense policies, right? Like it's just so many barriers for these individuals, so many hoops that you have to jump through just to get
Mhm.
resources. The wait list and the amount of time it takes to then get the resources, It's just this constant
Mhm.
cycle. And I was actually speaking to a candidate out of Georgia, and that was the first time that I had actually heard the word resource limbo, right? This idea that
Yes.
you make too much to receive the resources, but too little to, carry it on your own, right? Like this
Yeah.
constant cycle of people genuinely trying their best. That's why I always tell people,
Mhm.
the working poor, that's a term we don't use enough. People that are actively going to work, and to your point earlier, two and three jobs sometimes, right? And it's
Yeah.
still not enough. Or people say you just have to scale back, you have to budget. You can't budget what you don't have, you know
We
what I mean? Like
exactly.
you
You're
just cannot
right.
budget what you don't have. So again, I think thoughtful leadership is really thinking about that in a way that encompasses the different walks of life that you'll encounter. Now, I want to shift a little bit. At Black Girls Politics, when
Okay.
we do our research, right?
Mhm.
I recognize the incumbent has been in this role since
Mhm.
2005, very long time. So, if elected, how do you plan, right, to be innovative in a district that has seen truly the same representation for almost,
Actually, it's 2 decades because
oh,
it's 21 years. It's
oh,
two that.
oh my gosh, yes, it is 20. Oh my God,
Yes,
me and my math. That's why you don't get
that's
good at math.
okay. That's okay.
21 years? Oh no.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. Well, and I appreciate anybody that actually serves the community, but what you talked about, you asked me what about innovation,
Yeah.
right? I honestly, it's about listening to the people that are closest to the problem,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
That's how innovation occurs because you're thinking and you're listening to the people who are in the situations. And honestly, what I have heard is that it's the basics, right?
Mm,
They want safety, food on their tables, roof over their heads, fixing these raggedy roads that they always talk about, access to health care, including mental health. Those are the things that are a priority for them. And so we can be innovative and talk about all these new things that we're going to build and bring here, bring there. People want to know about what they want to hear from you is how you want to affect them every day.
yeah. Yeah.
So yes, I'm going to bring a fresh perspective, but again, for me, innovation starts with listening and being responsive to their immediate needs, and then we can move towards something else. But yeah, they're telling me there's some things that haven't been taken care of in a while, and
Yeah.
they need somebody to step up and get that done.
21 years is a very long time. I'm floored. Okay, look, I've never claimed to be a mathematician. I never told y'all I was good at math. I'm over here like 11 years is 21 is even longer. That's a long time. So with that being said, as you're doing your social listening, as you're talking to what could potentially be your constituents, right? What are those top things that they're talking about? What are the top things that they're saying? This is really what I want to see fixed.
Safety.
Really?
Safety.
Those
I
are the
hear
whole
it
thing.
from every corner of District 149. It don't
Wow.
matter the age, it doesn't the race, religion, everyone mention safety, and everyone deserves to feel
Absolutely.
safe. And that safety doesn't mean always mean physical safety.
Mhm.
It's about the mental health safety, and feeling secure in knowing that I might have a setback, but I'm not going to be put out of my home,
Mhm.
right? It's not about policing. It's about making sure that they have access to resources to support them when they're struggling a little bit, bringing those resources closer to home so that they're not having to take 5 buses if they don't have reliable transportation, right? Um, and unfortunately, our unhoused population has increased, and with that comes a lot of mental health issues, whether it be depression, whatever. And so making sure that we are not criminalizing issues that people really didn't have control over, that we're actually digging deep and looking at what got you to that situation and what supports, what system breakdowns cause those issues. And we need to address those things to make sure that when people are experiencing setbacks, that there are resources and supports and people that are there to help them. But we have to fund those programs.
And the thing is, I love asking this question because I think sometimes as a candidate, it's very easy to assume what people want, right? You could have easily said they want affordable housing or they want, this or that or whatever the case may be. But I love to hear when candidates are actually speaking to what could potentially be future constituents and what they're actually asking for, because it
Mhm.
does, it changes by demographics. Some demographics or some areas are like, we really need more public transportation, where others are really big on public safety. So I'm glad that you're doing that social listening. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
curious. I love asking this question. When voters walk into the booth, why are they
Mhm.
choosing you to represent them?
I have a track record for showing up. I've been showing up for years, whether it be through my work in education as a school board president. I have been consistently present in the community, listening to families, understanding their concerns, and really working to deliver real results. People don't have to wonder where I am.
Mm,
They don't have to wonder what I stand for because I've built those relationships over time. They learn to trust me. And so I believe that representation is more than just a title.
mm,
It's actually being visible, accessible out there in the community, and being accountable to the people that you serve. During the March primaries, when I was out at the polling locations during early voting and on election day, I
mhm.
was there from 7 to 7 and I was at talking to people. And so when I would stop them and hand them my literature and they would look at the picture, they was like, "This you?" "Yeah, this is me." And they were floored that it was actually me out there. When I'm knocking on those doors and
Mm.
making those phone calls, and I'm like, "No, I'm here. I want to listen. I want to hear what your concerns are." They are surprised that there's someone that's really out there that's asking them and showing up to listen. So if you, if I could tell my voters anything, if you're looking for someone that is engaged, that wants to hear from you, that wants to bring your voice to Austin and work on the issues that are most important to you, I have that experience. I've been doing it. And I want to take that to Austin.
So as we close, I just want to know, I'm curious, outside of this campaign, because I think you should be very proud of that. What is something that you're most proud of that you've been able to accomplish?
One thing that I would say that have been able to accomplish, other than my grown children, I'm very happy. They are very engaged as well. But when I mentioned earlier that our school districts are a microcosm of what's happening in the community, um, the two things that I would say I'm most proud of is that we build a state-of-the-art career and technical center where we're able to offer our students almost 40, a little over 44, 45 industry-based certification. We are strengthening that workforce that then directly goes into impacts our community. They're out there. They're um, good workers and they're able to be employed and they have these certifications. But the other thing also that I mentioned, that we wanted to make sure that all of our staff was paid a livable wage. We actually gave one of the highest raises. It was between a little over 7% up to 12% to raise
Wow.
that income because we need to make sure that the people in our community that number one works for the school district in any capacity has a livable wage because again your school district is one of the largest employers in your community, and so we want to make sure that we are doing what's best and what's right, and that we're taking care of who's with us now, but we're preparing our future through that workforce pipeline. And I would say those are the two things that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, that's incredible. So as we close, tell people how can they get involved? What are the dates? Give us all of the things related to your campaign.
Yes, yes. Well, they can go to my website, darlenebreaux.com, and that is my website. Up there, you'll see all the different ways to reach me. Whether you want to volunteer, there you can click on that link, volunteer, donate, to be able to support the campaign, because every little dollar helps us get the word out. Follow me on my social media, Darlene Breaux TX. But also, hey, I am always at the polling when they're open. I'm there 7 to 7. So our runoff election is early voting starts May 18th
Okay.
through the 22nd, and election day is May 26th. Come out to the polling locations, meet me, talk to me, let me know what your concerns are, and I would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. Again, Darlene Breaux, Dr. Darlene Breaux for House District 149. We have to tell
Yes,
everyone about
149.
it. We got to tell everyone to get out there and just help you out because these are some incredibly important elections that are about to take place.
You got a purpose. What is your reason? What is your fighting for? I see you searching, burning inside.